The confession you are about to hear is from Ades Okafor. If you had met me 10 years ago in the crowded streets of Benin City, carrying my Bible in one hand and tomatoes in a nylon bag from Oba Market in the other, you would never have believed I was keeping records. Not ordinary records, not bank statements, not school certificates, not even family documents. I was keeping what my coven called the ledger. And before you dismiss that word as symbolism, I need you to listen carefully because this is not a metaphor. There are families whose blessings are being spent by people they trust. There are bloodlines where children are born with divine favor, open heavens, unusual grace. But before they turn 25, something invisible begins to drain them. They work hard, they pray, they fast, they hustle, but somehow the wealth of their destiny keeps leaking into someone else's life. I know because I was one of the people trained to monitor that leakage. And in my father's compound in Uromi, I watched it happen to my own bloodline. I am speaking now because silence protects systems that thrive in darkness. My mother used to call me Ugochi, God's ego. I was born on August 14, 1991. The third daughter of Chief Emmanuel Okafor, a respected transporter who owned 3 buses running from Benin City to Onitsha. We were not poor, we were not rich, but we had what people called favor. My father was the kind of man who could leave the house with nothing and somehow return with contracts. My eldest brother Kelechi was brilliant. At 16, he had already represented his school in mathematics competitions in Lagos. My younger sister Amaka sang like heaven had kissed her throat. There was something on our family, something bright, and that brightness was noticed. The first time I heard my grandmother mention our star, I was 12. She was from Abo, a stern woman named Mama Ejiro, who always wore white wrappers and smelled of camphor and dry gin. One night during Christmas, after everyone had slept, she called me into her room. Adeze, she said, in this family, children do not just belong to their parents. Every first light in a bloodline is counted. I did not understand. She opened an old metal trunk under her bed. Inside were names, dozens of names, birth dates, strange symbols, notes beside each child, strong favor, delayed, diverted, protected, promised. I saw my brother's name, Kelechi Emmanuel Okafor, first male career, financial gate, suitable for exchange at maturity. I remember laughing nervously. Grandma, what is this? She slapped me so hard my ear rang. Never call what preserves this family a joke. That was my first introduction to the hidden family ledger. You see, most people think witchcraft is only about flying at night, causing sickness or appearing in dreams. No. The deepest systems I encountered were administrative, structured, calculated, like spiritual accounting. Every family, we were taught, carries what is called birthright capital, not money, not inheritance, but divine allocations. Who should prosper? Who should lead? Who should break poverty? Who carries healing? Who carries influence? And covens, especially embedded family covens, do not always create wealth from scratch. They often survive by siphoning this capital. Just like criminals laundering money through clean accounts, these systems fund dark agreements by trading the divine portions attached to unsuspecting relatives. I wish I were lying. By age 15, after my first menstrual cycle, my grandmother said I was ready for initiation into preservation. That was the language they used. Not evil, not witchcraft, preservation. I was taken to a shrine outside Auchi, near a village called Egara. It was hidden behind cassava farms. The woman there was called Mama Ruth, real name Ruth Omorui. To church members, she was a prayer warrior. To politicians, she was a fundraiser. To us, she was the accountant. She explained it plainly. Every throne needs funding. Every protection requires sacrifice. If your bloodline has strong children, you do not waste that currency. I still remember those words because they shattered something in me. Currency. She called people currency. That night, they brought out items from family members. My brother's old school uniform, my father's handkerchief, my mother's wedding photo, my baby sister's first haircut. I asked why. Mama Ruth smiled. Receipts. That was when I learned one of the darkest truths. Many spiritual transactions do not require your physical presence. They require access points, hair, clothing, signatures, photographs, personal objects. These become symbolic authorizations, proof of connection to the ledger. The first transaction I witnessed involved my cousin Ifani, who lived in Port Harcourt. He had received a scholarship opportunity to study engineering in United Kingdom. The entire family celebrated, but Mama Ruth said, if he lives with full favor, he will outgrow the covenant. So they negotiated. I know how insane that sounds, but I was there. His speed was reduced spiritually. In exchange, his mother's textile business suddenly exploded. Within 6 months, she opened 3 shops in Onitsha. Everyone called it breakthrough. They did not know it was funded. Ifani's visa was mysteriously denied twice. Then he developed a leg injury, then depression. Today, he still struggles. And his mother, who benefited, never connected the dots. That is how the ledger works. One person's unexplained rise can sometimes be linked to another person's invisible reduction. Not always, but sometimes. By 19, I became one of the record keepers. I tracked patterns. Who in the family was rising too fast? Who needed balancing? Who could be used as collateral for political contracts, fertility rituals, or wealth expansion? There was a phrase, no surplus without remittance. Meaning, if someone in the bloodline began exceeding the family's spiritual quota, excess had to be redirected. Do you understand the horror? A child gets admission unexpectedly. Another relative suddenly miscarries. A man's business expands. His younger brother develops addiction. A daughter is about to marry well. An aunt suddenly develops cancer. To outsiders, coincidence. To the ledger, balancing. For years, I believed we were protecting ourselves from generational collapse until my brother Kelechi. Kelechi was brilliant beyond measure. He gained admission to University of Lagos to study architecture. He was different, prayerful, disciplined. He would wake at 4 a.m. and pray loudly enough to irritate my grandmother. She hated it. She said, if he fully awakens, he will audit this house. I did not understand then, but now I do. Truth threatens hidden systems. One evening, Grandma instructed me to bring one of Kelechi's sandals, just one. I did. I wish I had not. At the shrine, Mama Ruth placed the sandal on a ledger cloth and said, his feet will walk, but not beyond our ceiling. From that year, Kelechi's life changed, not instantly, strategically. He still passed, still smiled, still tried. But every major breakthrough collapsed at the final stage. Internships vanished. Travel opportunities failed. Business ideas were stolen. Relationships broke before marriage. He kept saying something strange. It feels like I am building for others. I would go home and cry because that was exactly what was happening. His architectural grace was funding hidden agreements. His designs would inspire wealth, but manifestation diverted. That is one of the signs of a compromised account. You produce value, but ownership escapes you. You are the source, but never the beneficiary. By 24, I was fully initiated. And this is where I need you to pay close attention. Not every infiltrator looks wicked. Some are aunties, some are uncles, some are family friends, some are prayer partners. They become internal accountants. They monitor birthdays, collect baby items, insist on naming ceremonies, request photos, push certain family rituals. Sometimes ignorance, sometimes intention. I became that person. I attended naming ceremonies looking for access points. I volunteered to keep first haircuts. I offered to wash special clothes. I told myself I was helping preserve the family, but in truth, I was feeding a system. Then came the collapse. My younger sister, Amaka the singer, received an invitation to audition in Abuja. Her voice was extraordinary. Mama Ruth called an emergency night meeting. This one carries voice influence, she said. If released untouched, she may break the chain. A decision was made. Her emotional stability would be traded for family land protection. I froze. For the first time, I protested. No. Grandma looked at me and said, do not become sentimental over assets. Assets, my sister. That was the night I began to crack. Amaka went for the audition. She was selected. 3 weeks later, she experienced a psychological breakdown no doctor could fully explain. Panic attacks, night terrors, self-sabotage, opportunity gone. And that same month, a land case my father had battled for 12 years suddenly resolved in our favor. I finally knew. Our family was not merely unfortunate, we were trading, and the wealth was blood-funded. I spiraled into guilt. Sleep left me, dreams changed. I began seeing ledgers burning, tables overturning, children crying as their names were rewritten. Then one dream shattered everything. I saw a man in white standing in my father's compound. He opened our ledger. My name was beside dozens of transactions. He looked at me and asked, who authorized you to sell what heaven assigned? I woke up screaming. For the first time in years, I entered a church outside family influence, an old revival service in Benin City near Ababava Road. The preacher never met me, but his message was, some of you are eating from altars financed by stolen portions. I nearly fainted. That day began my spiritual audit, and this is what I learned. Many dark agreements persist, not because they are all powerful, but because they remain uncontested. Silence becomes consent, ignorance becomes access, fear becomes compliance. I confessed, not publicly at first, but enough to break rank. When my grandmother discovered this, she said, you cannot revoke what you fed. You cannot revoke what fed you. But she was wrong, because spiritual legality can be challenged. I began praying specifically. I revoke every unauthorized trade conducted through my bloodline, not vague prayers, targeted ones. I gathered names, dates, patterns. I traced where the leakage started. My great-grandfather's farming pact in the 1960s, a word for lineage arrangement during the Civil War era, protection covenants renewed through children. This was bigger than one generation, and deliverance was violent, not movie silence, systemic collapse. Businesses shook, secrets surfaced, relatives confessed, hidden objects were discovered in ceilings and foundations. My grandmother died 2 years later. Before her death, she called me close and whispered, we were afraid of poverty, so we mortgaged tomorrow. That sentence still haunts me. Today, Kelechi is healing. Amaka sings again, slowly. Our family is still recovering. Because reclaiming birthright is not magic, it is restoration, and restoration takes war. So if you ask me today what the hidden family ledger is, it is the invisible system where stolen destiny can be tracked, traded, and by God's mercy reclaimed. If your life feels like constant leakage, if breakthroughs always trigger tragedy, if your family has unexplained ceilings, if your dreams show robbery, barefoot wandering, or strangers eating in your home, audit your history, ask questions, discern patterns. Because not every battle is random, some are accounting. And this is my warning. What you do not confront may continue to invoice your bloodline. What you do not confront may continue to invoice your bloodline. So tonight, pray with precision. I reclaim every line item of my birthright traded on any hidden ledger. Every unauthorized exchange over my family line be revoked. My name is Ades Okafor. This confession cost me everything. But if it opens one family's eyes, then the ledger did not win.